Light, and you are watching House to Houseless Music in Action with Cole Williams.
The Black Panthers coined the phrase "power to the people" during the freedom movement. Today, right now, in this moment, we are all called to uplift those people that you don't make eye contact with and pass on the street, the least of ours. We gotta dig deep, and we gotta dig deeper. We gotta scream, we gotta shout, we gotta bang on doors, and we gotta let them know to empower the people. We must give power to the people.
Yesterday is far away, my tomorrow's your today. Nothing's what it really seems to be. Walk the road less traveled, then you find yourself in trouble. Some people don't want some people to be free. Spending all our time on the other side, dance 'cause the whole world's watching you. You are life's pop culture. If you don't, then they don't wanna. Hold up your head, give power to the truth. We give power to the people. We give power to the people. We push power to the people. We give 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 that power to the people. We got power to the people. We give that power to the people. We give 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 that power to the people. We give that power to the people. We give that power to the people. Smile like there's no hurt inside. Live with dignity and pride. Loving like you're heaven's here on earth. Dusting off your shoulders while lies in domestic corners. Breathe in, breathe out, relax, release the hurt. Some people never lose. They never felt the news of oppression by others who win only when they abuse. How we treat the bottom, where you go is where you come from. Hold up your head, give power to the truth. We give power to the people. 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 We got power to the people. We give that power to the people. We give that power to the people. We give that power to the people. We got that power to the people. Give him that power to the people. Like the king that he is to the people. To the people. Make sure you give power to the people. Give your queen power to the people. Your empress power to the people. To the people. Say his name to the people. Don't be afraid to the people. Just walk it out to the people. To the people. And we got power to the people. 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 To the people. To the people. To the people.
All right, welcome everybody back to Music in Action with Cole Williams. My name is Louis Marks. I'm here at Rope-a-Dope headquarters, and I always take a moment to explain what we're doing here. There are multitudes of people doing good works around the world on a regular basis. Many of them are musicians, as we found, and in a world of fragmented content with music and influencers and trending topics coming at you all the time, we want to bring some real things that real people are doing to your attention. We thank you for tuning in. We're going to have a wonderful show today and just sort of reflect on the year and talk about the work that Cole Williams has done. If you don't know Cole, she's a musician, composer, a WWOZ radio host and the founder of the Greater New Orleans Citizens Relief Team. She is in the vanguard of a powerful movement of direct action in the city of New Orleans, defending the rights of unhoused people, which is what we will talk about today. Cole, thank you for being here, and welcome back to your show.
It's always good to be back. This is like church. You know, I don't go to church every week anymore, but coming together with solutions in mind, like, it's always a great way to like end the month or begin the month, however you want to look at it. We've been really blessed, Louis. You know, thank you so much. I don't know what I really envisioned the Houseless Music in Action being when we first started, but I just love the evolution, and I love how this program is growing with me. Like, as I continue to learn and grow as an organizer, I just want to bring everybody along for the ride, because it's not a one-stop shop, you know? There's no one way to organize, but I think what all organizers that are effective have in common is we all work from the heart, and we all do it not because we need to do it, but we really see the benefit of planting seeds, whether people know about it or not, in our community. Like, we just know it grows. So that's what this show for me is about today, to just kind of give some background on how I went from being just a musician singing songs about heartbreak to singing songs even more powerfully about a message for all people, you know. And I want to answer some questions, and I want to share some updates that are happening in New Orleans, because this is a wonderful city to really be in and to grow in. And I'm so happy that New Orleans embraced me as a Brooklyn girl, by way of Jamaica, West Indies, how much they've embraced me. This really is a place that you know if you've been here before. So good to be home.
I'm going to spring it right now. I am traveling to New Orleans next week, and we will meet for the first time in 3D. And it's been a long time. But I will point out, I'm not sure that we even thought about this as we started to work together. It was just like, hey, you know, I'm a musician. People need houses. I'm working on that. Let's do something together. And it's like, that's great. But New Orleans is I mean, obviously, some people call us a jazz label at Rope-A-Dope. I would call us jazz adjacent, but obviously, you can't escape New Orleans if you're going to have anything to do with jazz. But we've, you know, Dirty Dozen were some of the first records out on this label. We're in this reflective mode too. 25 years coming up. Dirty Dozen Brass Band. The King Britt presents Sister Gertrude Morgan record and the Sister Gertrude Morgan record. And then, you know, various recordings down in the South in Lafayette, and then also in New Orleans with Snarky Puppy. So it's like, there's no way for us to escape New Orleans. So I'm really looking forward to get back to the roots. It's going to be nice.
Me too. You know, on my radio show, just one sidebar, you know, I just fell in love with Sister Gertrude Morgan. The original recording, it's her and a tambourine and maybe a stick, and just like testifying, and I just became a fan of hers. So I always feel the spirit of Sister Gertrude Morgan in this work, because she was a self-appointed nurse of the people. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just really, there's something so special about New Orleans. I also just want to thank, before I forget, thank our newest live stream partner, the one and only Offbeat magazine, that brings music and culture from New Orleans to the entire world. So I feel so grateful to be partnered with Rope-A-Dope and Offbeat magazine for programming that can really just help people wherever you're at. More information.
I'll step back and say quickly about Sister Gertrude Morgan that I've just discovered this week that the CD is in the Smithsonian.
No way.
Yeah. Partly because of her art, but also, you know, it's a good thing. So.
Isn't it incredible? She's an artist. She's a nurse. She's a singer. She's a spirit.
Well, there's the thread, Cole. That's it. You know,
no.
Do good things. Yeah.
I feel so empowered. So I want to share some updates on behalf of the Greater New Orleans Citizens Relief Team. So for those of you that are just joining us for the first time, I'm a recording artist and a WWOZ show host, but my best work to date is founding the Greater New Orleans Citizens Relief Team. We started off reclaiming and renovating blighted city-owned properties with the houseless people that were going to live in them while teaching a marketable skill. And we've now expanded to grocery distribution, and we've distributed over 40,000 bags of groceries over the last 2 years to the houseless and the at-risk community in New Orleans. So we actually have no grocery distribution this Saturday. We didn't have any for Christmas, and we also don't have any for New Year's weekend. Some of our partners are closed, so it affects our grocery distribution. So for anybody that knows somebody in Central City that depends on it, please let them know. We are also in need of volunteers. So if you know anybody that is local in New Orleans that wants to get involved with the community and volunteer, we're onboarding for the entire month of January. And so it's learning how to organize and being able to organize and just kind of implement it with us, but also in any groups that you're working with that serve the people. Also, if you didn't know, the housing encampment on Houseless has been shut down, and there's no information on where those houseless persons have been placed. So my hope is that they're being partnered with one of the other organizations that has taken charge of placing homeless people in shelter. You know, Louis, I also found the email address. So, you know, New Orleans has a new director of houseless services. So this is like a new title, a new infrastructure that they built to be the bridge between the houseless living on the street and the organizations that are already doing the work. So fantastic. That should be fantastic. Yeah, I actually sent an email about a week ago calling for a meeting because our whole program has been about partnering with the city of New Orleans with our program to like use the resources that are available, take these city-owned blighted properties and put some of these people to work that can work, but actually teach a skill that somebody that builds their home can walk away from it and be able to have employment, possibly future employment. So I'm gonna keep emailing. You know how I am.
Stay on it, and if anyone's watching, like we're ready. We're over here rolling up our sleeves. We're ready to work. So let's do this together. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, let's answer that email and get something cooking.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep emailing, and I will keep updating people. I just, you know, I'm so happy to be in a space where we can really just share this information because I feel like somebody watching might have some suggestions, and you know, we're all sharing all this information together, right?
Question for you. I mean, can people who are watching get, you know, who should they contact? Can they kind of call down to City Hall and say, hey,
absolutely.
I heard there's a new director of houseless services, and you know, I saw this on YouTube, and can we connect?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So City Council, contact anybody, like your specific City Council person, or you can just contact the mayor's office directly, or you can also contact Nathan Fields, the director of Houseless Services. They call it Homeless Services, but I want to say Houseless. Out of respect.
That's important to know, though, when you're calling. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still using the old moniker. Got it.
Yeah. You know, it's just so wonderful. I've seen the language around the unhoused changed, around the houseless changed in like the last year. So I feel like we are making progress. We're starting to at least notice that there's a problem, notice that there are people that we need to regard and respect. So I'm just hoping that, I just want more changes to happen.
Can you describe real quickly what that vernacular is about? Why houseless and not homeless for those who haven't tuned in the past?
Yeah, so the reason why we, the Greater New Orleans Citizens Relief Team, and a lot of activists in New Orleans, we started using the term houseless at the beginning of the pandemic. Personally, I was very uncomfortable. Like when I got to know people living on the street, I then became very uncomfortable regarding them as homeless. It felt so disrespectful. So we did what we always do. We went directly to them, like in conversation, and asked them, so what do you prefer to be called? Like, and I said exactly what I'm saying to you. I would say to someone, so I'm getting to know you and I feel very uncomfortable calling you homeless. Is there another word that I can use? Like, what would you like to be called? How can I regard you? Mm-hmm. And someone actually said displaced. He said, we're not homeless, we're displaced. And, I think ultimately, if we can regard them as displaced, that would be great. But as we get to that, baby step is houseless, like without a house, because home is where the heart is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I want to share some news that it's really sad news. So we have a small but mighty team of volunteers, Louis, that you'll get to meet when you're in New Orleans. It's compiled of housed, houseless, young, medium, old, Black, white, Hispanic, tattooed, conservative, just like everyone. We've watched the neighborhood transform since all of us started working together, and everybody did it of their own accord. And one volunteer that I was very close with, Mr. Mimi, he's transitioned. I just wanted to share that. And there's some people that you meet and they just transform your life, like without even trying, without you even realizing. I never regarded Mimi as houseless or homeless or displaced. I just regarded him as somebody that was going through a tough time, and we were helping each other out. So he helped us tremendously. He was my best volunteer. And if it's all right, can I just read, what something that I sent to his sister, that there's going to be a service on Saturday, but I just wanted to read just my thoughts on Mr. Mimi. Because I want to honor him in this episode as well. So when I met Mr. Mimi, I'd heard great things about him from my volunteers. But when I met him in person, it was just the icing on the cake, because he's truly one of the kindest, most principled men I've had the pleasure of knowing. Running my Indigenous woman-led organization to reclaim and renovate blighted city-owned property with the Houseless, we responded to Hurricane Ida by expanding our mission to feed the houses with fresh fruits and vegetables and non-perishable. Mr. Mimi is a big reason why we were able to facilitate and sustain this growth. And since 2020, as I mentioned, with the huge contribution of Mr. Mimi, we delivered over 40,000 bags of groceries to the houseless and the at-risk community in Central City and under the Calliope and Claiborne bridges in New Orleans. Mr. Mimi, and I'm saying this like a parent, I love all of my volunteers, but Mr. Mimi had that thing that made him feel like one of my best volunteers because of his holistic approach to organizing with us. He understood that offering groceries under the bridge was just a bridge to building transparent relationships with the people that we're serving. I learned a lot from Mr. Mimi, and I wish I could have learned more. He really taught me how impactful it is to treat everyone with respect, and he taught me how to serve with judgment. He taught me that life is a blessing, and why not feel blessed all day and be happy? So on behalf of my team of volunteers with the Greater New Orleans Citizens Relief Team, we want to offer our sincerest condolences to the Mladenoff family during this time. We will continue to speak highly of Mr. Mimi and celebrate being a little wiser for knowing him. So in peace, love, and community, Mr. Mimi, thank you so much for your contribution. Can we play that video? Just a tribute to Mr. Mimi. I want to share what he looked like, and this was taken, I think, in the month of July, his birthday month.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Louis.
Well, it's the same thing I was doing those days. My teacher was a woman named Ella Baker. And she used to, when she came to us, she brought us together. And when she came to us, she said, y'all demonstrating, y'all doing freedom rides. So she said, y'all would be doing a good job. Y'all sitting in at lunch counters and going to jail and serving time, and you're on the news every day and all these things. She said, but you know, a movement been going on in this country for a long time, so I want you to meet some of those people first. So maybe you're doing good, but they might have another agenda that you should know about, since y'all interested in justice. And a few of us got interested, and she said, what's the worst state for black people in this United States? And a unanimous agreement went up, Mississippi. So she gave us some names and addresses of some people in Mississippi she wanted us to go talk to. And about 3 people volunteered to do that investigation. And they went to a man named Amzie Moore. And he said, and she gave him a narrative of what to say. Say, you with this student organization that's doing the Freedom Rides, that's doing the sit-ins, that's doing all this hell-raising, but y'all want to figure out what they want, and you want to help them do what they want to do. And that'll be a way you can support the movement that was here way before you was born. So Mr. Moore says, look, that old Packer sitting out here, here's the key, and here's $10, put some gas in it, and go to Money, Mississippi, and knock on every door you can get to till you get tired. And write down what the people say. Give them the same narrative you gave me. So we went and did it all vigorously, brought it back, and we ready to go. He said, no, you're going to another town tomorrow. He did this for a week. And we tallied those responses, and the people said, yeah, it's all nice that y'all integrating lunch counters, but we want the right to vote. So the right to vote became the premier program for our organization. Now, in the midst of that, we were going to people because they had a literacy test, and you had to read and write to pass the test. So we were catering to teachers and professors and professional people because they could read and write. But they wouldn't go to the courthouse. They was too scared they're going to lose their job and stuff. So we go back to Miss Baker. She said, you always start with the worst off. Who is the worst off in Mississippi? We look at each other. She said, go read if you don't know. She said, with some people that never got out of slavery and they still on the plantation. So go visit them and see what they said. We went and visited them. They were ready to go to the courthouse and register to vote, but they couldn't read and write. So we had to learn how to teach literacy. My point is, if you look at those old footages of Martin Luther King and anybody else doing marches, you'll see a front line of intelligentsia-looking people and professional-looking people, and the whole march is just ragtag black folks. That's who stepped up. And so right now, we came here because we saw these numbers. We saw that we were dying faster than everybody else in the country. And we started figuring out who was the bottom. And this was before we knew about the virus. And I met Cole and I said, you know, why don't some entertainers come under the bridge and deal with the homeless? She was right on it. We go down there and sing and dance and talk. Next week, we got the virus. So we already in the door, so we kept going. But we acted a fool and started trying to invite the activist community. No one would show up. And I went to sleep, and Miss Baker got to me in my dream and said, boy, you know you're supposed to go to the bottom. So we went to the homeless. The moment we went to the homeless, we had a crowd.
It's like my two angels. Like, you know, I remember when Curtis Muhammad gave that interview. And, you know, just how he bridged the gap of his organizing experience in the 60s to modern day. Exactly the way that he was taught to organize is exactly how he trained me. He told me to go directly to the people. So I had this idea of it's housing. You know, we want to get them housing. There's no reason why anybody's living on the street. However, when I'm going to the houseless, in my experience, what they need even more than housing is somebody to talk to, some food. So in expanding, you know, part of organizing is being realistic and not taking things personally. So my goal right now, if my goal was met, there would be like at least 20 homes that were reclaimed and renovated with the houses that are living in them. That's my goal. But what are the people's goals? So working with Mr. Mimi, you know, who has this experience where I never, because I was already trained, I didn't approach him as somebody living on the street, but he reminded me of my elders that I respect. As, you know, a man that's living on the street, he's principled, always respectful, always clean, excuse me, always Miss Cole, and, you know, respected my leadership, respected my Black female leadership, which is a big thing, and with no questions asked. And he would always ask, do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? Always waited, even if he knew what to do, which is such a big thing. So he really led by example. And, you know, that's like what I get from this, you know, video with Curtis. And I had to share Curtis's speech under those images of Mimi because Mimi is a part of the legacy of organizing.
I mean, it's just so mind-blowing for me. I mean, that's fascinating. And another thing comes up, Cole, and I think there's like this sort of this suspension that goes on in thinking for people who are housed when they see that someone is unhoused. I think the suspension is that we think that like they don't have anything else to do except to find a house, and they're like dynamic. It almost feels as if it's, which is super strange for me to say, that a housed person takes it more seriously than an unhoused person does in a certain way, but because we think that your life stops because you're unhoused. And from the things that I'm hearing about activism from Mr. Mimi and also the people going to the courthouse, it's like, if you're sitting in your home and you said, tomorrow you're going to be unhoused, I think at least I do, and maybe others do, have this idea that life just stops. Like you somehow stop being a passionate, educated, uneducated, whatever, you know, whatever kind of human. There are all kinds of things going on in your life. You just don't have a house.
I know houseless people that we worked with that were going to their jobs, that when they had extra money would sleep in hotel rooms for like a week or a weekend out of the month. Like there are people that are waitresses that are houseless. So, you know, it's interesting now that I've crossed like my personal hump, and I break bread with them, and so there's not such a separation for me anymore.
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying. And I think what it made me think of, in order to survive, the have-nots have to know how the haves live. You have to, because you're in their world.
Right.
But in order for the haves,
they're driving by. Yeah.
Yeah, the haves don't have to know how the have-nots are living. So I think if you're speaking about like our society, like, from the top to the bottom, like almost culturally, the higher that we go is the less that we know because we're out of touch with the bottom. But the bottom is always driving it.
But I feel like there's a line, and there's like this little thing that happens that I just attempted to describe that begins a dehumanization process because you're not understanding the full extent, right? Like it's not somebody in your family or whatever, but if it were, then you would know that the person is still thinking about the birthday and still thinking about the job and still thinking about all the things that we're thinking about. They just have this other challenge, which is, you know, so we kind of, there's something in the way we sort of set an order of value in our society.
Unspoken.
Suddenly that person is not part of the game anymore, and it's a person, and they are part of the game, and they're gonna celebrate Christmas, and they're gonna go to their job, and they're gonna go organize, and they're gonna do all these things. It's just picture yourself without a house to begin that humanization process again. That's what I want to bring to that.
Absolutely, it is dehumanizing. It is like an unspoken agreement that,
It's a separation.
yeah, that they're not human, which is why it's so valuable to have conversations. So, the lead-in is, this is what I want for you. This is what we want for you. But we always ask, so what do you want? Do you want a home? Some of them are like, no, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the overhead.
Right.
Some of them do, but they don't want to be a part of the system that's, dehumanized them. So I think, you said something just now about it's not like a member of the family. And yeah, when do we really like start to treat every human being like a member of our family? Like that's the energy that I have. I do have boundaries, but the energy that I have is I love everybody like family. And sometimes I love you so much that I think that we love each other with a distance, right? But like, I love you so much that I know you, that I'm going to take time to understand how we can work best together. And some people you can work together like this, and some people it's different, and it's okay. So I think not maybe having such a linear approach to humanity and how we treat each other, and you can serve and you can give without giving everything, because I have to have something if I'm going to serve, which is why my rest is super important, Louis. I'm segueing.
Yeah.
Like my health, I'm really like health conscious. Luckily, my dad, like, he really put me in a place where I think about like what I put in my body and exercising. Also, my religious upbringing, like we had to watch our diets. I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist, so I could not eat certain things, and I had discipline. Like I couldn't do secular things. So I grew up with already like a ball of discipline. But I think, when you like have experiences and you have friendships and you have relationships and you have work colleagues, you just kind of realize like what's really important. And it's like we're never gonna agree all the time. But if we prioritize just trying to understand, and like if we had got a little extra, do a little extra. If we don't have extra, we can't do any extra. It's okay. So for me, that's the lifestyle that keeps me balanced as an organizer, is that I don't give what I don't have. But if I'm overflowing, feel free, but don't dip into mine. Because I need this. I need this to be able to like write a grant and perform and write a song and just listen without responding sometimes, because all they wanted was somebody to listen, and go with the flow and organize the groceries and try to transmute this pain that I feel, the sadness that I feel for losing Mimi, into, no, we're gonna like have another ancestor, another angel that's like moving us along. It's a lot. But
just be
what
there.
else? Yeah, what other choice do I have? Like, I want to live. I don't want to exist. I want to live a life. So I serve.
That's beautiful. And I do think about, the average person listening, if you will, and I'm going to take away from this the focus of how do I change the way I view this first. Like that's work in and of itself.
Yes.
To change the way you view it, and to not let emotion or the printing press, aka the barrage of information that we receive, influence the way I decide what this is. And I think that there's a primary shift that can happen there if people do view this as family. Somebody doesn't have a home. That's that. Where do we go next, Ms. Williams?
Oh, wow. The moment. Wasn't that a moment?
That was a moment.
Let me do some housekeeping. If you're just tuning in, we are in the middle of the Houseless Music in Action. It's a conversation with myself, Cole Williams, and the incredible Wizard of Oz of Rope-A-Dope Records, Louis Marks. We're live streaming on YouTube at Rope-A-Dope and Offbeat Magazine, one of my favorite music magazines. I got my favorite. I like saying that on my radio show. I love everybody, but I got my favorite.
Yeah.
Like parents. But everybody's kind of my favorite. I'm a Libra, so it's really hard to choose. But let's get to some questions.
There's something to be said for, a magazine like Offbeat, who has just been committed in a world where it's grow, grow, grow. It's just, no, this is what we're going to do. We're going to focus on
Yeah,
New Orleans, and that's what we do. And I respect it so much.
and they do it well. So I got a few questions and I got a long comment. So I'll start with, I think we kind of answered this, Lewis, maybe. So Quincy from Denver asked, why is your social activism focused housing and homeless people? That's a good question. I read it and I thought about it before, but like now I'm on the spot.
Yeah.
I think about like the bare minimum, like the basics, kind of like what every human being needs to get by, not even like be wealthy, just to get by. And for me, one of those things is a home, like a roof, walls, floorboard, water, electricity, transportation, can be a bicycle, your feet, nature's transportation. So why did I choose houselessness? I've been through a lot in my short life. And I would say part of my success is that I'm able to, in real time, take the good, vet out what doesn't serve, and keep moving. And, when I speak to a lot of the houseless, I kind of see myself. I see like if I didn't go down the paths that I went down, because there's many opportunities to, become off the grid. So if I didn't have a good education, if I didn't have like my discipline from playing classical piano all my life, like having to like take lessons and practice. And, if I didn't have these things that were already embedded inside of me, vision, purpose, things that I received from the church, like it could have been so easy for me to get caught up in like a lifestyle that would have left me open up to being houseless. So my heart, it reaches out because a lot of these people have been abused, turned to drugs. Music has been my therapy. So seriously, when I couldn't afford therapy, to write a song and to sort of existentially deal with my problem helped me. And so everybody doesn't have access. So when I see a houseless person, I see someone that doesn't have a support system, like one step away from being in a deep depression, not feeling cared about. So, like I said, I always start off with the conversation of the home because I feel like my home is my safe space. So I want everybody to have a safe space. But in starting that conversation, I meet people that want to just share like what they're going through. Sometimes they just want to talk. Sometimes they're so happy that like I notice them or any of my volunteers notice them. So it's like a silent act of kindness. I know how good I feel like when somebody chit chats with me and it feels real and authentic. And so, yeah, why not the houseless? They deserve it. What do you think, Louis?
Well, I've scrolled forward to the next question, but in all fairness to Quincy, working with musicians, it's always a personal. It's always a personal thing for what they hear in the music that influenced them, and the things that hit them when they were younger that another musician was talking about. Or their personal experience. There's a personal connection. I think that's the most important thing. Is not, musicians. Cole, you're not out here saying I want to go do some good, so let me pick something.
Right.
There's something in your heart that you want to follow, and this is it. And I think that you're also finding community, and that's bolstering. Your original intuition of connecting with people. And so, sometimes the choice gets made for you. You have some connection to it and you go along, and it becomes rewarding, and it becomes your community. And that's what I see from where I sit.
Thank you.
I just can't wait to see you field this next one, because I'm ready to Jump right in.
Daniel from Queens. What up, Queens? Okay, I'm gonna read it verbatim. I guess I get it. It's inhumane that some people live on the streets, but why can't they get a job, get off drugs, and do something to help their situation? Why should I care about them more than they care about themselves? Louis, like sometimes I hear that a lot, but also it's almost like unspoken that people are feeling that. And when they don't want to support, like I feel that a lot. You want to answer first? Go ahead. You go first.
Sure. What I see when I read this, Daniel, is that there's plenty of narrative out there with this question. These are things that we have heard in a lot of places before. And so what I ask people to do is generally question the information that comes to you. I wondered one day which thoughts are my own of anything that I've ever learned in my life, from my parents telling me things to do when I was 5 years old to the present day. And which things really hit me at the core that I truly believe, and which things are just information that's been taught to me. So my first step in this process is to say, let's just peel away those things. Start at today's Twitter feed of whomever and work your way back to your parents and say, dude, is this what I believe, or is this something that I learned? That's a way to kind of get back and answer your own question. The final question, which is, why should I care about them more than they care about themselves? Because internally your question is, why should I care about them? There's a suggestion here that if they don't care about themselves, then they don't deserve care. And of course, anyone could throw that at you at any point in your life. As far as they get a job, get off drugs, and do something to help their situation, I don't think anyone gets up in the morning and says, fuck it. I'm going to throw it all away because I want to get high today, and I don't really care if I'm homeless or not. If they do, then they have some trauma that has led them to that mentality, maybe. But I really don't think too many people do that. This is a slope. It's a slippery slope. It's one thing that leads to another. It might be love. It might be misguided love. It might be a person that you listened to who said, let's go do this, and you didn't have the courage at that moment to do something about it. There's a lot of ways that people become homeless. And why should we care about them? Because it could be us. And you can sit, and I can sit in my room and say, I'm doing fine, and it's not ever going to happen to me. But it doesn't mean I can't envision it. It doesn't mean I don't understand. And in the end, when you're caring about another human being, you're really caring about yourself, because you really are the same. So I'm not trying to disregard your question or give the questioner a hard time in any way. I'm just trying to speak some, what I think is truth to the question itself, and that is, it could be us. We don't know that the person is basically flipping you off and saying, I don't want to be part of this and I don't care about myself. We're not really sure about that. We don't know from a distance until you get in. Here we have a person who has gotten in there in Cole and has talked to the people and said, hey, I think these people are worthy of help. But I also, in closing, just want to say, how hard is it to do a little something for the person who doesn't have a leg up? It's not really important whether they take your kindness and turn it around. What's important is that they see the kindness in other human beings, and that you get the opportunity to be kind. So that's why you should care. Not more, just a little.
That's real.
That's all I got to say.
I appreciate the question, because I like the authenticity it's like at least we could work, I love your response, Louis, because at least we could work with it. Like we know where he's coming from. So like we know how we can help to like reframe, if we can help reframe, but maybe something that's said can just help shift into not a us against them mentality, but we're all here together. So it costs nothing to care. So why not make our lives look a little bit better, feel better, like knowing that people are getting the help and the attention that they need. Like it costs nothing. But so many people feel this way and they won't say anything. Like Louis, they will not say the honest truth.
It's a fair point. Yeah.
So as much as, I don't really care for the question, but I think it comes from like an old fashioned way of looking at the housing crisis, the humanity crisis, really. And it's sort of disconnected from like looking at like American history and society and how it's all related. I think if maybe he looked at just like everything, the history of not having the haves and the have-nots, maybe it would inform him a little bit more. I also think, one thing that my mentor, Curtis Muhammad, would always say is some of the biggest purveyors, and I don't know what his ethnicity is, but some of the biggest purveyors of supremacy, like the practice of we're better than you because of X, Y, and Z, and we're going to take over, is sometimes worse with people of color because you have to work within this system. So I want to say, like, what is the mentality? Are you trying to like work within a system that's not working, or are you looking outside of that and saying, just because this solution may not work within the system doesn't make it a wrong solution? People living on the street should be helped. And that's where we start. So that's kind of what I feel about it.
Without taking up too much more time, every year I watch the movie Scrooged, Bill Murray movie. And every year I'm like, I've seen this so many times, there's no way I'm going to cry. And every year I cry. Because they boiled down the story of Charles Dickens and the whole concept of hardening your heart versus opening your heart to a very simple thing. And it's very clear at the end that it is enlightening and exciting and interesting and soul affirming for him to not use conscious definitions to define the boundaries of what you can care about.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's move on to Vivian.
Yeah.
Daniel, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Like I want more of that. See, I feel like the conversations, there's wisdom in the conversations. At least we put everything on the table. So I'm not mad with like the disagreements. I'm just like, okay, let's open up our hearts.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Okay, we got Vivian from Madison. No offense. I think everything you're doing is great and needed, but you're also like a superhuman goddess. How do you juggle your music career with volunteering without getting burned out? So, okay. So people that know me in the organizing field don't really know about my career, like as a musician. So it's quite interesting because I don't lead with that. I just want to be like a human. I want to be regular. I don't want to be, I just want to be me. I want character to like reign. So when I go to like my musician spaces, there's like this reverence and respect. I guess because I'm physically doing the work and I'm getting involved and I'm sticking consistent. So it's like this, and even before people call me superhuman, because like it seems like I do like 20 things. I'll be in like 3 different bands, like all working, like recording. So now I added this to my sheet, to my to-do list, which is at the top. But I don't see it as like taken away from my day. It's like I'm so deep into service right now that I know that the benefit of service is that I'm going to receive. I feel like if we look at like a lot of successful people, they serve anonymously, but I think really successful people, this is not in a financial and spiritual and emotional capacity, understand that service is like the key, one of the keys to life. Just me consistently serving the houseless and working with them and speaking with them and not taking it personally when they stopped calling me because, you know, they got tired of this lady asking about the house and holding them accountable and not taking anything personally, just moving with like the best, like looking for the best, looking for the blessings and keeping it going. It's now so apparent that it's almost like I don't think about it. I just do it. I have to be of service. If I'm not of service, my blessings feel different. It's like a pleasure, it's a privilege, it's an honor to be of service. And you don't have to have a lot to be of service. The biggest transformations that have happened in my life, and definitely during the pandemic, I didn't know what was gonna happen, Louis. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? What career did I choose? Like, my life is over. So thank goodness I had this organization that I founded, because I don't know what I would have done without the Greater New Orleans Citizens Relief Team and WWOZ to keep me consistent. And being of service, it just makes me realize that like I have to do it. And that's why I'm here to just share with people that like, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a lot, but if you give what you have, like honestly and earnestly, you'd have no idea the impact. And it's not to get something in return, that's not it. But but because you don't want anything in return, those blessings are amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even have the words to describe it, but I do my research and I look at successful people. I'm so sorry, Luz, but it's like I've started to look like at successful people, and I noticed they all like serve, and you don't always know where they're serving, these silent acts of kindness. We gotta do a little bit to like help a little bit, and it helps a lot.
I'd like to reframe the silent acts of kindness, and even speaking to the last question. So everything does not have to be defined in a transactional way. It is our system that tells us that everything is transactional. It doesn't really work like that in life and on planet Earth. Everything is not transactional. Things come around in various ways. Sometimes giving is the gift to yourself. You know, we don't have to define it that way. Jumping ahead, you've got question D on here. D, sorry, I call it D, but came after C. It's not really a question. It's more of a statement that speaks to an underlying cause of racism. And I don't know if you want to, it's certainly, I think, too long to read through, given our time frame. Do you want to speak to that comment?
Yes. So first, this comment came from somebody that chose to remain anonymous. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to address first. I personally have had people support my organization, donate money and say, I want to remain anonymous because I don't want to have any trouble. So this was like not the first time I saw something like in this, but it's also talking about like, it's defining the people, it's humanizing the people living under these bridges. A lot of them, and I've been told this as well by prominent New Orleans culture bearers and musicians, that there are culture bearers that are houseless. There are musicians that are houseless, and not, only new musicians, but prominent musicians that we know and that we love, that are living under the bridge and have no place to turn, formerly incarcerated. And we know the incarceration system in Louisiana is pretty fucked. So I appreciate when it's like in support of, because they end with keep fighting, sister. But like this comment reminds me of why it's so important to keep doing what I do. I think that what I'm doing is just something small, but I represent so many people. And for me to be consistent, it's like, I don't want to say responsibility like it's a bad thing, but it's like when you do something that you love and then all of a sudden other people like it, and then you realize, oh, okay, I got to be mindful because they're not all in my head and doing my processes. So I have to be a little more thoughtful about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So that's all that I'm saying, is that now I'm just like, every day I'm more mindful about like what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, because for the people that aren't in my mind or having these conversations or on this podcast, I don't want them to misinterpret what we're doing. This is all about peace, but it's about the peace of humanity, that we have the right to rule ourselves. We have the right to, which is what we've done by elected officials, but that's gone rogue. So it's getting back to community. We have built societies by small communities, microcosms all over the world that operate and support one another. And the further that we get away from this community and this collective way of being is the closer we've gotten to individualism. And it sort of feels like, I don't know what life was like before, but I know it feels like screwy. And then like I feel sorry for like Generation X, because I'm like, they have no communication skills, and whatever little that we can do. For me, I started with the Houseless. I said, let me start like bottom of the barrel. Like that's the practice of Ella Baker and the civil rights. That's how I was trained. But I think anybody can start with anything that serves the whole, not just the individual. If it serves everyone, it's a good thing to do. Did I answer kinda the question? The comment?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're speaking of the community and advocacy and including, you know, you represent some people now because of some of the work that you've done.
It's
You know,
deep work.
I just want to come back to just the simple thing. You know, you and I off camera before we began this talked a little bit about, you know, the things that keep the world together. And I mentioned that I read a statistic that more than half of the economic activity of the world is unrecorded. The fight is real from where I sit. I'm no stranger to seeing musicians, maybe not homeless or houseless, sorry, but as close to houseless as one can get, while being a culture bearer, and I really appreciate that term. The culture is the culture. It's not the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when people can think outside that and enjoy their time together and build community as you're doing, comparisons to how it is for someone inside the system are not really, you know, they're relevant when it comes to a house,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. But as far as it's not winner take all in that sense, you know. I mean, the culture will prevail, the system will not, and you know, you just have to, as difficult as it is, it must be remembered.
Absolutely. And New Orleans does a great job of reminding people that the culture is at the top.
I mean, look at the history of New Orleans, and you know, Haiti and all the, you know, I mean, the culture has prevailed long past a lot of the systems. So
Mm-hmm. Let's keep it that way. Wow. How we doing on time, Louis? You know,
we're right up against it. We're out of time.
So
But we can do it, though. Let's go.
You sure you want to do this last question, and maybe because we have a few things, but I feel like we can save that for 2024 too. Like these are not time sensitive in that manner. Like we can do that.
I'm going to help you with the last question. Super fan, huge fan, Peter from Atlanta, Georgia. Lots of support and streams your show every Tuesday. Curious to know what's the moment that started you on your path of music and activism? I think you can answer that one, you know, on a comment thread or something like that, and I think we ought to jump into your new song, just for Peter.
Let's do that. You know what? The song is the answer. Guys, this is the world premiere of my new song, new music video for Who Cares for the Houseless on the holidays.
Here we go.
Listen to the message.
In New Orleans, activists are demanding city officials expand a program to provide hotel rooms for unhoused people during the pandemic. This is community organizer Cole Williams.
Who cares? Oh, who cares?
is here. Champagne toast, drink your beer. It's the time when we try to think of someone other than ourselves. But do we really know how deep some suffering goes? When do we think of someone other than ourselves? Do we care? Who cares? Who cares for the needy? Who cares for the houseless on the holidays? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares for the least of us? Who cares for the houseless on the holidays? What if we organize the bottom like I know we organize our shopping list for special gifts for people we don't even know? I know we make a difference with a little compassion and some more commitment. Whoa. We can't live in dark corners. Let's serve all year long. Whoa. Who cares for the children? Who cares for the houseless on the holidays? I wanna know. Who cares for education? Who cares for the houseless on the holidays? Oh.
And we don't seek out, we don't harvest the genius of the least of ours. We don't pay them any attention. We just walk by them, give them a quarter and think it's all right. But the idea of organizing the least of ours and moving upwards, I mean, if you go look at the Civil Rights Bill, we passed it on behalf of black folks, but white folks, white women particularly, benefited more than we did because it's a universal issue. So if the people on the bottom raise, everybody raise.
We live in freedom. We live in justice. All for one and one for all. If we don't win, then we don't fall. Now's the time to practice community. Live from the bottom, this humanity. We decide who will rise, who will live, who will die. We decide to spread joy, spread love over the world. The holidays are here. Remember, some people go without all year. We can choose to plant seeds of hope with everyone around us. Listen, blessed are the meek, and blessed are the free. I know, you know, we are better together. Who cares? Who cares?
Whew.
You know, on that note, just a little commentary and maybe just, setting some expectations for ourselves and, for the people around us. I enjoyed shooting that video. My director of media, Michael Alfred, and I, we just work so well together. So we just went out there by Lee's Circle in New Orleans and we shot some video. It was so good. I love the message.
Camera work is beautiful. You are so iconic in like all of your essence.
I appreciate
and
it.
Vision comes through in the shots. So you look around at the community and you can feel it. It's beautifully done.
Thank you. It's so real. So who cares for the houseless on the holidays? My hope one is that this song becomes a distant memory. It's like, remember when there were houseless people and we had to write these songs, and it's just maybe more nostalgic. But I'm so grateful. I feel really grateful above all to be a part of the solution, to really just expand how active I am in being a part of the solution, and having the support of people like you, Lewis, and Jan with Offbeat, and my volunteers, Kristen and Devin, and the late Mr. Mimi, and the late Curtis, and Miss Diana, and little Jackie that show up every week just ready to help. It's so much support. And Brian that also volunteers with us. I'm grateful, and for me, I'm looking forward to a 2024 where we have more involvement from musicians and more involvement from the community, and we keep building this from the bottom up. Like Curtis said, that whole team, like after the front line of the intelligentsia and academics, marching with Dr. King, it was a bunch of ragtag Black folks. So the people have always had the power to make things happen. And so I just want to like remind the people, like, we can do it. So that's my hope for 2024. Just more organizing, more collective understanding and agreement, more learning, more growth, more service. And more music. Oh my gosh, of course.
Always the music. Always the music.
You know, I would die if I didn't have it. What about you, Lewis? What are you thinking? What's your hope?
We can get, my hope for 2024.
Maybe one.
Well, I told you what my resolution was. I'm going to use more "yous" in my words, like journey and color and things like that. But I set the bar low. I hope that people, I know that people will, and I hope that 2024 is kind of a, one of those advanced leaps forward, the great leap forward in such a way that people understand that the system does not define us, and that we can think more in terms of community, but not as community as smaller than the larger system, the global system. Community is the global system. Absolutely. And the rest of it is a bit of a poorly scripted play that we're all believing. And I hope I hope 2024 for myself and for others around me is an awakening time where we see that we are actually here together and caring for each other, and can tune in more to things like this, and focus less on the gym playlist. That's a little music business thing there. Let's listen to the music, because the what's the old O'Shaughnessy thing? We are the dreamers of dreams. That's what I love the most about music is the musicians, and they are the dreamers of dreams, and you are, and so that speaks to all of us. And I hope that we just see that timeline materialize in a little more digestible way, so that we can see a little more that it's actually happening, and we're doing it, and we're getting.
I think it's happening. I think it's happening at different levels for different people, but I hear people asking questions, which is so important. So they're questioning something, which is like a major step. And I just feel like, we that have learned a little more, we just got to be a little patient. The same way that we organize with like the bottom, we got to organize with like the bottom of evolution. So, those that haven't evolved to using the heart first, we got to show them, so that's more love, and it's okay. And it's okay to fail and get back up.
Failing is the best.
Yeah. Like, how do we have this environment of failing for children, but not for adults? When did that stop? So let's get comfortable with like failing and picking ourselves back up, which is really what we're saying with the Houseless. Something happened. Let's help pick them up.
Yes.
Next month, we'll be back. We're going to send out those dates right after the new year. We're wishing everybody a happy new year. Yeah. And can I end in the words of my mentor, the late Curtis Muhammad? Because these words, like, they're always in my mind. So Curtis always reminded me, we can't build a revolution or a movement without figuring out how to pick us up from the bottom. That's why I do what I do, and I hope it inspires you all too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Cole, the work you're doing is so important, so direct, and so connecting. I respect you. I thank you. I thank anybody and everybody who is listening, those who ask questions. That was the most exciting part. I've done a bunch of these, and we're always talking to people instead of having a dialogue. And I hope that we do this if we can in future shows. Like, we want to keep that dialogue going. And thank you for making music. Thank you for understanding the full power and value of music in our world.
Oh, that's God. I stand on the shoulders of giants, so I can't take any credit for this. Shout out to Nina Simone. Shout out to Gil Scott-Heron. Shout out to Miriam Makeba. Shout out to Harry Belafonte. Shout out to Mark Gaye, Curtis Mayfield. Shout out to Sister Gertrude Morgan, Mahalia Jackson. Those are the shoulders I stand on. So it's a privilege to be doing it with technology, like a ring light from my home.
I love it. And for those that are watching and those who have sent questions, send in some of your favorite songs from the people that she just mentioned. We'll play them on a future show. How's that sound?
Yes. We love you. Louis, I love you. Thank you so much. I'm not even drinking it. I love you. This is great. I can't wait to see you. Ooh.
We'll see you next week. I'm gonna come down and get in and meet everybody. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back. Stay tuned on Offbeat, on Cole's Twitter socials, on the Rope It Up Twitter or X or whatever the heck that is, Instagram, whatever. And we're gonna take it out with an unreleased song for the outro music from some people who are accomplished musicians who have played around the world, with names like Yo-Yo Ma and on and on and on. These are people who are have been in the circuit, but together they put an accordion, a marimba, and a trumpet together as their idea of a band, and it's actually fantastic. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.
I went down to St. James Infirmary to see my baby there. He was laid out on a long wooden table, so cold, so still, so fair. I went up to see the doctor. He's very